Barron Trump, tall and composed for his 17 years, had always been quiet. But on this chilly autumn morning, something changed. His phone buzzed relentlessly as he scrolled through the news. A senator had publicly mocked his mother, Melania, during a heated debate. The words were cruel and unwarranted, cutting deep into her character. Barron's heart pounded as he read the senator's exact words, a flash of anger boiling within him. He could picture his mother, who rarely showed her pain, holding back tears. She had always been his anchor, standing gracefully through storms of criticism. Now she was under attack again. Donald Trump, now retired from the presidency but still a commanding figure, sat nearby, watching Barron's reaction. "Son," he said, his voice gravelly but calm, "ignore the noise. People talk. It's what they do." But Barron couldn't ignore it. The senator's remark wasn't just an insult to his mother. It was an attack on everything she had endured. "Dad," Barron said firmly, "this isn't just noise. This is wrong." His father raised an eyebrow, a rare sign of approval. "What are you planning to do?" Barron didn't answer. He didn't know yet, but deep down, he felt the spark of a fire he could no longer ignore. Melania Trump, always poised, sipped her tea by the window. Her eyes glistened as the morning sun touched her face, betraying a sadness she rarely let show. Barron watched her from the doorway, his heart breaking. "Mom," he said gently, stepping closer, "does it hurt?" She looked up, startled. "Barron, don't worry about me," she said softly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "People talk. I've learned to live with it." "But you shouldn't have to," Barron replied, his voice trembling. "You've done nothing wrong. You've only ever been graceful, and they don't see it." Melania reached for his hand. "The world is cruel sometimes, but you must rise above it, my son." Barron nodded, but her words didn't ease his pain. Later that day, he took to his room, reading every article and watching every video about the senator's remark. The more he learned, the angrier he became. That evening, he made a decision. He would speak up, not as Donald Trump's son, but as Melania's son. Quietly, he began drafting a heartfelt letter, one that would soon shake the nation. The letter, posted on Barron's social media, quickly went viral. It wasn't political. It was personal. "My mother is my hero," it began. "She has faced ridicule with grace, stood tall when others would have crumbled, and taught me the true meaning of strength. The recent remark by Senator Caldwell isn't just disrespectful. It's wrong. My mother deserves respect, as does every woman who has endured baseless attacks for simply being themselves." The post resonated deeply with millions. Older readers especially found themselves tearing up at Barron's words. They saw their own struggles mirrored in Melania's grace and Barron's quiet determination. Donald Trump, known for his fiery speeches, was uncharacteristically quiet about his son's move. "Barron has a mind of his own," he told a reporter, "and he's got my full support." Meanwhile, Senator Caldwell responded dismissively, calling Barron's words a dramatic overreaction. But Barron wasn't deterred. Instead, he was emboldened. Little did anyone know, this was only the beginning. The storm was brewing, and Barron was at its eye. Barron walked into the family room, where his parents sat in silence. Melania gazed out the window, lost in thought. Her usual grace seemed heavier today, like she was holding something in. "Mom," Barron said quietly, breaking the silence, "why don't you fight back?" Melania turned, her soft eyes meeting his. "Because, Barron, I don't want to give them more power. If I react, they win." Her words hit Barron like a punch. It wasn't just about her. It was about every time she'd stayed silent, while the world judged her for being who she was. Donald Trump, seated in his signature navy suit, finally spoke. "Your mother has always been stronger than people think, Barron. She fights in her own way." "But this time, she shouldn't have to fight alone," Barron said, his voice breaking. "It's not fair." Melania reached out and touched his hand. "Life isn't fair, my son, but love makes it bearable." Tears welled up in Barron's eyes as he looked at her. For the first time, he truly understood the weight she carried. He felt an ache he couldn't explain, and a fire he couldn't put out. The nation buzzed with Barron's letter. People from all walks of life shared it, praising his bravery and compassion. "This boy has more heart than most adults," one woman commented online. At a press conference, Senator Caldwell dismissed the uproar, smirking as he said, "Let's not take advice from a teenager who's never worked a day in his life." Barron saw the clip that evening, his hands clenched into fists. He wasn't just angry, he was heartbroken. "Why do they hate us so much?" he asked aloud, his voice trembling. Melania, standing nearby, placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's not hate, Barron, it's fear. Fear of what they don't understand." That night, Barron sat at his desk, staring at his laptop. His emotions swirled as he typed out a second message. This time, it wasn't just for his mother. It was for anyone who'd ever felt silenced. "When will we stop tearing each other down?" he wrote. "My mother is my hero, but she's also human. So am I. So are you. Maybe it's time we remembered that." The post went live. Barron didn't know it yet, but his words were about to spark something far greater than he could imagine. The media storm was unrelenting. News outlets analyzed every word of Barron's posts, while commentators debated his role in the public eye. Some praised his courage, others dismissed him as a privileged child seeking attention. Donald Trump watched it all unfold with a mix of pride and concern. "He's got guts," he admitted to Melania one evening, "but this could get messy." "It's already messy," Melania replied, her voice soft but firm. "But maybe it's time the world sees him for who he really is." Barron, meanwhile, was feeling the weight of it all. Friends reached out, offering support, but some questioned his choices. "Why would you put yourself out there?" one classmate texted. "Because it's not just about me," Barron replied. "It's about what's right." The turning point came when a retired school teacher wrote an open letter to Barron, thanking him for his bravery. "Your words reminded me of my late son," she wrote. "He always stood up for others, even when it cost him dearly." Barron read the letter with tears streaming down his face. For the first time, he realized the true impact of his actions. He wasn't just defending his mother, he was giving others a voice. Barron couldn't sleep that night. The words of the retired school teacher echoed in his mind, intertwining with memories of his own childhood. Growing up in the public eye hadn't been easy. Every move he made was scrutinized, every word picked apart. But his mother had always been there, shielding him with her quiet strength. He remembered one day when he was 10. A boy at school had teased him about his father. Barron had come home in tears, but Melania had knelt down to his level, wiping his face gently. "Barron," she had said, "what people say does not define who you are. Only you can decide that." Her words had stayed with him, but now they felt heavier. He realized she had been living by them all along, enduring attacks and criticism without breaking. The next morning, Barron sat across from his parents at breakfast. "Mom," he said, his voice steady, "I want to do more. This isn't just about defending you. It's about standing up for anyone who feels powerless." Melania's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't stop him. Donald Trump leaned back, nodding slightly. "If you're going to fight," his father said, "do it right." Barron's words had lit a fire across the country. His second post had sparked a movement, with hashtags like Respect Melania and Barron's voice trending on social media. People began sharing their own stories of resilience and standing up to injustice. But not everyone was supportive. Senator Caldwell doubled down, calling Barron a sheltered kid who doesn't understand the real world. The media ran with it, debating whether Barron's actions were genuine or orchestrated by his parents. Donald Trump was furious. "They can come after me," he growled during a family meeting, "but they don't touch my son." Barron, however, remained calm. "Let them talk, Dad," he said. "It's not about them. It's about the people who feel seen because of this." Behind the scenes, Barron began working with his mother on a speech she had written years ago, but never delivered. It was about dignity, respect, and the strength it takes to rise above hate. Together, they decided it was time for her to speak. The announcement of Melania's public address made headlines, with millions eagerly anticipating her words. But none could predict the emotional bombshell she was about to drop. On the day of the speech, cameras flashed as Melania walked to the podium, her steps graceful but deliberate. Barron stood to the side, his heart pounding. His father was there too, uncharacteristically quiet. Melania began softly, her voice steady but filled with emotion. For years, I have chosen silence, not because I lack words, but because I value peace. However, there comes a time when silence is no longer strength, but surrender. She spoke about the challenges of being in the spotlight, about enduring judgment and cruelty, while striving to remain true to herself. Her words were raw and heartfelt, resonating with people across the country. But then, her voice broke slightly as she said, "I have learned this strength from my son, Barron. His courage to speak when I could not has inspired me. Today, I speak not only for myself, but for every person who has ever felt unseen or unheard." Barron's eyes filled with tears as the room erupted into applause. Across the nation, people watching from their living rooms wept openly. Melania's words were more than a speech. They were a lifeline for many, and yet this was only the beginning of the storm that was about to unfold. That evening, Barron sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the glowing screen of his phone. Messages poured in from strangers around the world, some thanking him, others questioning his intentions. But it was a letter from a woman in Ohio that brought tears to his eyes. "I lost my son to bullying 2 years ago," it read. "Watching you stand up for your mother gave me hope again. You reminded me of him, his courage, his heart. Thank you for making me believe in kindness once more." Barron clutched the phone tightly. He thought about how many lives had been quietly shattered by harsh words and careless actions. His fight for his mother had turned into something much bigger, a battle for dignity and compassion. Meanwhile, Donald Trump paced the study, speaking in hushed tones with his legal team. The senator's latest comments had crossed a line, and Trump wasn't one to let things slide. "They want a fight?" he said, his voice firm. "We'll give them one?" As the house grew quiet, Melania found Barron in his room. "You've done more than I could have imagined," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm so proud of you." News of Melania's speech continued to dominate headlines, but behind the scenes, cracks began to show. An investigative journalist uncovered a shocking connection between Senator Caldwell and a secret lobbying group known for funding smear campaigns. The revelation sparked outrage. Protests erupted outside the senator's office, with people demanding accountability. For the first time, Caldwell appeared rattled, avoiding questions from reporters. Donald Trump saw the chaos unfold on TV and turned to Barron. "Sometimes the truth doesn't just come out," he said. "It needs a push. Are you ready to take this further?" Barron hesitated. He wasn't sure if he was prepared for what lay ahead. But then he thought of his mother, the strength she'd shown, the pain she'd endured, and nodded. "I'm ready." That evening, Barron and Melania recorded a heartfelt video together. In it, they didn't attack the senator directly, but spoke about the importance of kindness and integrity. "When we forget to see the humanity in each other," Melania said, her voice trembling, "we lose something precious." The video went viral overnight, touching millions. Yet, as the world rallied around them, darker forces began to stir, threatening to derail everything they had fought for. The Trump family awoke to an unsettling sight. Protesters and supporters alike had gathered outside their home, holding signs and chanting. Security tightened as threats against the family increased. Donald Trump called an emergency meeting with his security team. "We've handled worse," he said, trying to sound calm, but the tension in his voice was clear. "Keep them safe at all costs." Barron, however, refused to stay hidden. "I won't back down," he told his parents. "This isn't just about us anymore. People are watching, and they need to see that we won't be silenced." Melania's eyes filled with tears. "But Barron," she said, her voice cracking, "you're just a boy. I don't want you to carry this weight." "I'm not just a boy," he replied firmly. "I'm your son." The family's unity inspired many, but it also made them a target. Late that night, an anonymous email was sent to several media outlets claiming to have damaging information about the Trumps. As the family braced for the storm, Barron's heart raced. He had always believed in standing up for what was right. But now he wondered if they would all pay a price too steep to bear. The anonymous email spread like wildfire. It claimed to have incriminating evidence that could tarnish the Trumps' reputation. Barron's name was mentioned, suggesting he had orchestrated the public outcry as a political ploy. Sitting in the living room, Barron felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. Melania sat beside him, her hands trembling. "This is how they fight," she whispered. "They twist truth into lies." Donald Trump paced the room. "I've seen this game before. They're trying to distract us from the senator's scandals. Stay focused," he said, though his voice betrayed his concern. Barron looked up, his eyes filled with determination. "Let them try. We'll show them we have nothing to hide." That evening, the family held a press conference. Donald, standing tall, addressed the nation. "Our family has always faced attacks, but we will never be silenced. Lies may spread, but truth stands firm." Melania stepped forward, her voice steady but raw. "This is not just about our family. It's about every person who has faced cruelty and stood tall. We will not be broken." The crowd applauded, but the storm was far from over. The shadows of doubt had been cast, and the fight for truth had only just begun. As the days passed, Melania's strength became the family's anchor. Despite the mounting pressure, she carried herself with dignity, refusing to let fear dictate her actions. Barron watched her closely, inspired by her calm resilience. "Mom," he said one afternoon, "how do you stay so strong?" Melania smiled faintly. "Because I know who I am, Barron. They can try to tear us down, but they cannot change the truth." But behind her calm exterior, Melania felt the strain. Late at night, she would sit alone, sifting through old photos of her family. She found solace in the memories of simpler times, before the world's gaze turned harsh. Donald noticed her quiet moments and joined her one night. "You don't have to carry this alone," he said softly. "I'm not," she replied, her eyes meeting his. "We have each other, and we have Barron." Their bond strengthened, the family decided to dig deeper into the senator's connections. With the help of Donald's trusted team, they uncovered documents linking Caldwell to illegal lobbying practices. Barron stared at the evidence. "This is it," he said. "We need to show the world who he really is." But revealing the truth would come at a cost none of them could foresee. The evidence against Senator Caldwell was undeniable. Donald's legal team prepared to go public, knowing it would spark a firestorm. Meanwhile, Barron found himself at the center of a new wave of attacks. Online trolls accused him of being a puppet, while Caldwell's allies spread false stories about him. Barron tried to stay strong, but one evening the pressure became too much. He broke down in tears in his room, overwhelmed by the weight of the fight. Melania found him there, sitting on the floor with his head in his hands. "Barron," she said gently, kneeling beside him, "it's okay to feel this way. Strength isn't about never falling. It's about rising every time you do." Her words calmed him, and he nodded, wiping his tears. "I just don't want to let you down," he whispered. "You could never let me down," she said, pulling him into a hug. The next day, the family held another press conference. This time, they presented the evidence against Caldwell, leaving no room for doubt. The nation was stunned, support for the Trumps surged, but Caldwell's camp fought back harder, and the battle entered its most dangerous phase yet. The day after the press conference, the Trump family faced a storm of mixed emotions. The evidence against Senator Caldwell had gone public, triggering investigations and calls for his resignation. But with the truth came danger. Barron woke to find his social media accounts flooded with hateful messages and threats. For the first time, he felt the full weight of standing up for what was right. Melania, ever composed, reassured him. "When you fight for truth, it isn't easy," she said, brushing his hair gently. "But you have the courage many adults only dream of." Donald Trump was relentless in his efforts to protect his family. He beefed up security around their home, ensuring Barron and Melania were never left alone. "No one messes with my family," he said firmly. But even as they stood together, the family felt the strain. Late at night, Barron overheard his parents talking. "It's taking a toll on him," Melania said, her voice breaking. "I don't want him to lose his childhood." "He's stronger than we think," Donald replied. "And we're going to get through this, together." Little did they know, the most shocking revelation was yet to come, a twist that would change everything. The investigations into Senator Caldwell revealed a bombshell. The senator had been part of a secretive group manipulating media narratives for years. Emails surfaced, showing Caldwell had coordinated the attack on Melania as part of a larger strategy to discredit the Trumps. The revelation rocked the nation. Supporters and critics alike were forced to confront the truth. For Barron, it was bittersweet. He had fought so hard to defend his mother, and now the world finally understood why. But the senator wasn't going down without a fight. In a desperate move, Caldwell accused the Trumps of fabricating evidence. The media frenzy reached a fever pitch, and the family's every move was scrutinized. Amid the chaos, Barron found strength in an unexpected place. Letters poured in from families across the country, sharing stories of resilience and hope. One letter from a veteran stood out. "You remind me of my son," it read. "He stood up for what was right, even when it cost him everything. Never stop fighting." Barron read the words aloud to his parents. Donald placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "You've done more for this family and this country than you'll ever know," he said, his voice thick with emotion. The final showdown came when Caldwell held a press conference to deny all allegations. But just as he finished speaking, a whistleblower stepped forward, one of Caldwell's former aides. The aide confirmed everything: the smear campaign, the media manipulation, and the lengths Caldwell had gone to destroy the Trumps. The nation erupted in outrage. Caldwell resigned in disgrace, and the Trumps emerged victorious. But for Barron, the victory wasn't about headlines or politics. It was about protecting his mother and standing for truth. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Donald Trump gathered his family together. "We faced many battles," he said, his voice steady, "but this one was different. Barron, you reminded us all what it means to fight for what matters. I couldn't be prouder." Tears filled Melania's eyes as she hugged her son tightly. "You are my greatest gift," she whispered. The nation watched as the Trumps stood together, stronger than ever. Their story became a beacon of hope, inspiring others to stand up against injustice. As the screen fades, Barron's voice echoes, "When you fight for what's right, you might stand alone, but truth will always prevail." If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Share your thoughts. Did Barron's bravery inspire you? Let's celebrate standing up for truth and family. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss another story. Thank you for watching.